Welcome to the Real South Africa Travel and Tourism.
I am Dr. Natasha Blanton.
And I'm Mark Blanton, and the owners. And we have amazing packages coming to Johannesburg. Everything we do is 5-star. Everything is private. And what else, Tasha?
Everything we do is exclusive and made just for you.
So all I can say is go to our website, therealsouthafrica.com. We'll see you here.
Make sure you pick up my 2 books that's in Amazon right now. The first one is Passive-Aggressive Racism and the System of White Supremacy. And I talk about in that particular book how the system of white supremacy really runs on our daily lives here in America. In our latest book, 7 Steps to Decolonize the Mind, we go through those steps to try to deprogram you from the system of white supremacy. Make sure you can pick up those books on Amazon.com.
Introducing the African Diaspora News Channel app, your gateway to stories that's overlooked by the corporate mainstream media.
At African Diaspora News Channel, we cover stories that don't receive mainstream attention, and we serve as the voice to the global Black community. We are committed to informing and educating through the power of media, connecting the African diaspora one story at a time.
With our platform, we're helping to end injustice by exposing it.
Join us in standing for excellence in journalism and serving our community. Download the African Diaspora News app today.
Peace, family. My name is Vicki Dillard for African Diaspora News Channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are so pleased that you are with us today. Family, as you come in, I have a little bit of a ritual. As you come in, be sure to come in giving us a big thumbs up, thumbs up. Be sure to like and be sure to share. You may ask, well, Vicki, why do you ask us to do that early on? That way, in modern media, social media in particular, it hopefully will help to activate the algorithm and send out notifications. And how many of you all know that's so important that we are active and proactive in generating support for messages and narratives that matter to us? Yes, and you get to participate in that. Thank you so very much, family. I want to have a very, very important and an insightful discussion about the direction of this country and this government. Now, particularly one very powerful wing of this U.S. government is the Democrat Party. Why am I saying a very powerful wing of the U.S. government? And why am I saying it in context to us? Because our people, Black people, foundational Black Americans in particular, however you want to label yourself, have given power to the Democrat Party for nearly 3 generations. Are y'all hearing me today? Close to 60 some odd years, we have been giving support to a group of people that have done very little to nothing for us. Talk black to me, somebody. How many of you all understand that this is very important? That when you give power to a group, to a political party in particular, to change your condition, and they use the access and the power that you give them to give tangibles and assistance, substantive, tangible assistance, physical assistance to others and not you, you've got to change things up. That is exactly what many of us did during this past election when we said, hey, we've been voting, year after year, decade after decade, generation after generation. So some of you that's out there that's telling us that if we don't vote, we don't count. If we don't vote, we're not getting reparations. No, baby, you got to use your head. If we've been voting for 60 years and we don't have reparations now, how could you jump to a logical and reasonable conclusion that we're going to get it now when the Democrats told us, no, they're not? And we've been voting for all those years. You see how your mind is something's not matching up, right? You see how something might just actually be wrong with the upper northern region of your head, of your body constitution? You see how that doesn't make any sense? How many of you all know that sometimes abstention is a strategy or a tactic in this case? It doesn't mean it's long term, and it doesn't mean we use it every single time. How many of you all know it's very effective for us to vote, for example, even in local politics, because it has a different sort of effect. Yes? So you don't get to question us about anything around here. We move the way we move. Now, with that being said, the Democrat Party is a party that tried to silence their most faithful voting bloc, Black Americans, right? Now, when we started to fight back, when we started to get seriously politically engaged for the past several years, going to multiple meetings, y'all retaliated against us, yes? You ignored us. You lied on us. You silenced us. How many of y'all saw my broadcast that I did yesterday where I reminded you all through footage that Joy Reid used her platform, for example, one of many examples in 2019, where she specifically targeted and called out foundational Black Americans, and she brought on the guests and stuff, and they basically said that we was bots. They referred to us at different times as Russian bots. Remember, they called us so-called. They acted like we didn't exist. Now, how many of y'all know we actually existed because they lost the presidency, they lost the Senate, and they lost the House of Representatives? How many of y'all know that's proof that we exist? At the end of the day, all this chit-chatting and talking. Now, I know they saw voices like mine out there on a regular basis. So if they wanted to hear from us and our demands, how many of y'all know that Joyless Reid could have brought me on and I could have explained it? But how many of you all know they're part of the establishment? They're the false prophets for different parties, so they want to silence you and act like you don't exist. So because they know that you're powerful, they fear your influence, they just simply pretend like you don't exist until you take over. So that's why we use alternative forms of media, family, to get our message out there. And that is the very reason why they don't like it, because we're being very effective by engaging directly with you using alternative forms of media. Yes. And that's why your support is so very important. Now that I've said all that, as an extension of us calling out the Democrat Party and trying to get them to understand their utter and absolute betrayal of Black folks, and to some degree other faithful Democrats, the more we keep trying to tell the Democrats to look at why you lost, why you sustained humiliating losses in all of the three major levels of powers in the U.S. government, the Democrats keep lying. They decide to be delusional and stay in a state of denial. You understand? So Stephen A. Smith, how many of y'all know Stephen A. Smith? Stephen A. Smith is not somebody that I go to as an authority on nothing. He's a bones and biscuits and a bootleg. Talk black to me, somebody. Let's just keep it real. Yes, he is. He's a shucker and jobber and a bootleg, a terrible, horrible one at that. But sometimes the divine will set up circumstances and situations and people in such a way, family, that they'll use the most unusual voice to try to make a point. Now, because he's on the side of most establishment systems and situations, you would think that they would listen to one of their own, right? Well, he understands that the Democrats are losing and they still losing because they're not acknowledging why they lost and they're not changing their strategies in order to win in the future. Well, he was on The View for quite a little bit. And of course, we're not going to actually, show you all the video because of different rules and regulations, but you'll be able to hear some of the audio. I want you, family, right now to get ready to listen to, he was just on The View less than 24 hours ago, right? Family, the whole segment, I got to say that this little shucker and jiver, who I don't believe in for hardly anything else, he told the Democrats the truth. Yes? He told the Democrats the truth. He told all of the left-leaning, mostly except for the one or two girls, that's ladies on the View that's more right-wing, about why the Democrats lost and the fears that he currently has. Family, you should see how aggressive and hostile and fearful and dramatic they were. But most importantly, you're going to see how they're going to get ready to cut the break when he started getting into detail about the humiliating loss of the Democrats and how he's fearful that they still in a very precarious situation. Family, listen to this.
That's why Stephen A. Smith is in the news. Because y'all don't have anybody. You don't have anybody. Who you got? I'm not in the news because I'm here. I'm in the news because the Democratic Party is here. Damn it, lower than that. Down at the bottom. They suck right now. Horrible. Because they don't have a voice. Where the hell is the voice?
Don't hold back.
I would say that is quite a voice you brought. I mean, right now in the polls, you're nearly tied with Pete Buttigieg, AOC, Governor Gretchen Whitmer. You have a higher favorability than John Fetterman and Vice President Harris. What do you make of this?
I make of it that citizens, particularly on the left, are desperate. And I mean it when I say it. I think I can beat them all. And I have no desire whatsoever to run for office. I am not a politician. I am not qualified. But I know this much. When you consider who's on the other side and how he's gotten away with saying very little in terms of being coherent and articulating his thoughts clearly and concisely and what have you, this is not something that he's known to do. Yet and still, he has owned the Republican Party since 2015. Not only has he won, the Republican constituency has said, we don't want anybody else but him. We didn't want DeSantis. We didn't want Haley. We didn't want Christie. We didn't want Ramaswamy. We didn't want DeSantis. We didn't want anybody. We want him.
What does that say about the Republican Party?
It's not about what it says about the Republican Party. It's about what it says about the Democratic Party.
Why?
Because in the end, if you think about him being impeached twice, 34 felony counts or 34 felony convictions, and they still elected him president. It's not about him winning. It was an indictment against the Democratic Party and what the Democratic Party was offering to American citizens. We might sit up there and talk about, hey, you should be a party for the working class, which the Democratic Party was once known for. They're not known for that right now. Why? Because their message was catering towards others and towards other issues, and they forgot about the people that brought them there, that elevated the Democratic Party to what it was over these last few decades. That's why they lost. He didn't win.
Well,
the Democrats
let's remind
lost.
people what those issues were.
Sure.
Let's remind people what those issues were.
We can do that.
Making sure that families had what they need, SNAP, making sure stuff is there, making sure that the America that we all grew up in, where you could come and be whoever you were supposed to be or want to be, you still have that right. All these things are the things that the Democrats have always said. But now we have a guy who says, yeah, you know, I'm going to bring down the price of eggs. But first, I'm going to cut all these jobs, and I'm not going to see why they need to be cut. I'm just going to cut them. Because I'm going to put people in. Well, that's what he's doing. He's doing all
and alienate all our friends around the world.
But you're talking about what he's doing. But before you brought that up, you brought up the message that the Democratic Party was disseminating. I'm challenging you on that. That is not what they were doing. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about their intent.
We did it.
I was here too. I was alive and breathing right here on the air, talking to everybody else. The bottom line is this: you're Joe Biden. You opened borders. Now remember, Barack Obama deported more people than Trump did. You know what he didn't do? He didn't stick out his chest and bloviate about it. He just did it. What does Joe Biden do? Who's a Democrat? Who's the vice president under Barack Obama? He opens borders. Over 12+ million people entered the country. You had stuff going on in the streets. There was a migrant crisis here.
That he's the reason that there is a migrant crisis?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying. I'm saying he contributed. I'm saying he contributed to it. But the point that the biggest point I'm making.
He just took the key and just opened up a door.
He just took. Well, that's part of it. Even the Democrats say. Even the Democrats say they did that.
Hold on.
Sure.
Wow. Let me hit the gavel on that. That was nothing but fire, family. Now, again, I am no fan of Stephen A. Smith. He has been nothing but a bone and biscuit and a shucker and jiver in times past when it comes down to issues that really matter to black folks in general. But because he understands the desperation of the Democrat Party and how horrible and terrible they're losing and the fact that the Democrats are not changing in any way to win, he had to sound the alarm. Now, do you see how Whoopi had to cut him off and say, we got to go to break real quick? And before he went to break, they kept interjecting. Like I said, that segment is even longer when you actually watch the physical thing. But family, they were constantly interrupting him. They were constantly trying to justify the Democrat losses. But at the end of the day, family, we can't sit up with you to be delusional Democrats. We can't sit up and high-five losers. And to make you feel better by making you think that you're still special and important by lying about the numbers and by lying about the results. How many of y'all know that when you got a hater in your life, when you got somebody in your life, let's say you got some friends, family, and you know that a good friend of yours is really jealous or competitive with somebody else, and you don't want to hurt your friend's feelings by telling them, look, you acting real weird and strange, you ought not to be doing that. But because you just go along and you just pump up your little friend's head and then end up blowing up in their face later on, because you don't want to tell your friend the truth later on, to tell your friend, hey, you're not acting right, this isn't right, you're moving weird, this is not going to help you in the long run. And yes, in that moment it may make them feel good, but you lying to them. We're not doing that. Are y'all hearing me today? That's the problem, is when you lie to somebody, you can lie all you want to. And in that moment, in those few seconds, you might make them feel okay and not feel so bad, but you don't help your friend to ultimately change. And you certainly don't help to affect the ultimate outcome. Lying to yourself won't make you a winner later. If you want to ultimately get better results, you have to tell the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. And the problem with the Democrat Party and the problem with the elites on that side is your arrogance, your ego, with your condescending self. You still think you know better. I say that, but the truth is, no, you know you don't know better. That's the truth. You know, I know, we all know you don't know better. But your arrogance and your ego won't let you humble yourself to win. Because you spent so much time, so much effort, and so much money ignoring us and on everybody else and moving on your agenda and your way of doing things. You do not want to appear to contradict that. And because you don't want to have to humble yourself to voices like mine, you want to keep going in the same direction, knowing full well that you're getting ready to run off a cliff. There is no question that they don't know what they're doing. We don't need to sit here and debate about it. We need to just look at results, family. You know, a tree bears fruit. The fact that you had to have somebody like Stephen A. Smith, as he told you. Who is Stephen A. Smith? He is a sports broadcaster. This man talks about sports. And he admitted himself. He said the only reason I'm in the news is because of the Democrats. There is no voice, is what he said. But Stephen, you're wrong. Y'all didn't expect this twist, did you? Stephen A. Smith, you're absolutely wrong, beloved. Stephen A. Smith, it's not that the Democrats don't have a voice. Stephen A. Smith, you know darn well we're here. Stephen, you know we're here. You know there's an alternative voice to the establishment, but Stephen A. Smith, just like the rest of them, is still trying to keep that which is dead alive. Stephen A. Smith knows that there are networks and alternative media outlets just like this one that speak in the opposite of the Democrat Party. He doesn't want to highlight them because he's still trying to give them mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Democrats, by their obstinance, are proving and showing why they deserve to be ignored and why their party deserves no longer to exist. The Republicans too. Republicans ain't doing nothing for us. But I'm specifically talking about the Democrats because, once again, they're the actual party that many of our people voted for. They're the party that we actually gave power to change our condition, and they've chosen not to do it. Stephen is in the news, as he said, because the Democrats don't have a voice. In other words, they don't have a voice that's speaking what we're saying. But Stephen A. Smith, there's something you can do about it. And baby, we don't beg over here. We don't shuck and jive over here. And because you still got a bit of that shucking and jive and energy in you, it still matters to you the validation of the establishment. You too, Stephen, are pretending like we don't exist. Did you hear Stephen Smith tell them in that interview that y'all forgot the people that brought you here? He generally talks about the working class. Working class is a term for white folks that's mad that they ever had to work. You ain't never known black folks not to work. It was our work that made you the superpower that you are. White folks weren't working hard. They was hardly working. The backlash is that they ever had to work. But nevertheless, you get his point when he said, you forgot the people that brought you here. Stephen A. Smith, The View, Whoopi Goldberg, Sonny Hostin, and others, who brought the Democrats there? Reliably. Even when every other group in the party changed up on them, switched up on them, was mercurial, was unreliable, who could you know for sure was absolutely reliable? Foundation of Black Americans. We are the ones that made sure that we brought you there. And that's what he should have said on live television in front of the whole world on traditional establishment media. Believe it or not, Stephen A. Smith is a part of the problem too, because he only knows that they're not saying what the people are saying because he's listening to us too. I've got some pretty famous people that support me, family. I just don't tell it to the world, because if some of them publicly tell the world that they support me, they would get shunned. But how many of y'all know we got some private support too? Everybody knows what time it is. He said to them also that the Democrats, when Whoopi cut him off, well, what do the Democrats stand for? Let me tell you what the Democrats stand for. Remember, that was one of the few times they kept cutting him off. Again, y'all didn't see the whole segment. They cut him off more than that, but y'all saw where they had to hurry and cut the break, right? Watch this. Before they cut the break, she cut in and said, well, let me tell you what the Democrats about. Remember, she started talking about all the stuff about helping the people and working class folks and all that. I'm paraphrasing, right? He said that wasn't what y'all was saying before the actual election, though. That's not what was being articulated before the election. Doing stuff for the people. What did he say? The Democrats' allegiance was to big business. And guess what, family? It still is. The Democrats take big money from lobbyists just like the Republicans do. You remember how the Democrats used to always complain about this notion of Citizens United when the Supreme Court made the decisions that basically corporations are people, they got a voice just like regular folks, and they can spend basically unlimited amounts of money or more money on campaigns than what they used to? How many of y'all remember hearing about the bill about Glass-Steagall? Look that up. That had to do with reining in some of the limits and the powers of the corporations over the voice of the average man and woman. You're not hearing the Democrats talk that talk like they used to. You know why? Because some of their very voices, like on MSNBC and others, they take big money from big corporations and pharmaceutical folks and weapons manufacturers to pay for their broadcast. So that's why they look more silent now when they go out to about corporations spending money for elections. They know they can't say too much about it because they know it's corporations that's paying their bills over there. So when they push something off on you and you don't agree with it, they can't really back up because of who paying them. This is an indictment of you all deciding to stay in delusion. But more importantly, it tells you why they deserve to continue to lose. Why? Do you all understand what that means? That whole segment and how they're responding, the Democrats, not just The View, but others. Even the Angela Rye's of the world, the Tiffany Cross of the world, all those losers that was rejected by the Democrats or fired from Democrat platforms, fired or removed from the Capitol Hill. Angela Rye, she was on CNN, but she also used to work on Capitol Hill. Do you all know that they are still using their platforms that they despise, their alternative media platforms that they never wanted in the first place? They're still using them to push the failed Democrat talking points. These are still the same voices when they had those platforms like Joy Reid. She crying a river you want us to cry too. But when they had those big platforms, they weren't pushing for our voices. They were using those platforms to dog and silence us, to mock us, and to be the powers that shouldn't be attack dogs. Talk black to me, somebody. Stephen A. Smith talking tough to them and being honest with them. We got to give him credit where credit was due. But he's trying to revive the establishment system and telling the Democrats, y'all still on the wrong road. Are y'all hearing me today? They put big business before the needs of the people. And at the end of the day, more than anything, what's really going on is they feel like they don't have to listen to us. They feel like that we're going to keep ignoring you. We feel like they say that we're going to keep doubling down. The more we tell them about reparations, the more we keep talking about tangibles, the more we keep talking about doing something for us, the more we keep talking about stop putting illegal immigrants and spending billions and billions of dollars for them over us, the more we keep exposing the fact that y'all giving Nazi Ukrainians that's fighting a proxy war with Russia Social Security, the more we keep bringing up the fact that y'all are spending hundreds of billions of dollars on foreign wars, The more we keep bringing up the fact that you got trillions of dollars that's unaccounted for in the Department of Defense for the past several audits, they failed to pass, and unaccounted for trillions and trillions of dollars, and y'all don't feel like you need to do nothing about that. The more we keep saying, please stop giving those that violated the law to get here criminals housing and money and cars and jobs over us while you step over homeless Black folks. Could you please put us first? The more we complain, the more we brought that to their attention, the more we ask them to do something about it, the more they thump their noses at us. So you deserve everything that you get in Democrats, and you're going to continue to lose. Let me tell you something before I go. Y'all know what it is. Dr. Claude Anderson, one of his several books, he's got about 5 books. This one that he's most known for, in my opinion, is Powernomics, right? In Powernomics on page 186, under the section that says the rules of the game. The rules of the game. And don't forget, the reason why I love to quote Dr. Claude Anderson, family, is because he was an insider. This man not only has a doctorate degree, he's not only an economist, he's not only a businessman, he's not only a person that had his own radio station. Not only because of all those wonderful and amazing qualifications, our dear brother ran political elections and campaigns and won. Our brother was appointed by former President of the United States, Jimmy Carter, and worked in his administration. Our brother is the one that negotiated with anti-Black racist Strom Thurmond, just up from Jim Crow, and got Black judges on the bench and negotiated them, and also managed during the DNC, one of the Democratic convention campaigns, to get a large number of Black folks contracts. That's why I quote Dr. Claude Anderson. He worked behind enemy lines. So when he talks, we ought to listen. What did he say in Powernomics about the rules of the game? He said Black Americans have always been excluded from playing politics by the official rules of the game. He said every time we sought to play by the rules changed or the game ended before we had a chance to play. Therefore, rather than continuing to be like a dog chasing his tail, we need to simply step back and look outside the box. In the action steps outlined in this chapter, we suggest ways in which we should alter our behavior or change the accepted rules of politics. But in all instances, we must adhere, y'all listen, to the fundamental rule of all politics, quid pro quo. Did y'all hear that? Dr. Claude says that we need to adhere to the rules of what? Quid pro quo in politics. What exactly is that? Are y'all listening? It means something for something. Or at a more familiar level, it means you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. Those who invest their time, energy, and resources in support of a political issue, candidate, or political party expect to be compensated in a manner that is equal to their investment. Y'all ain't listening to me. I'm almost done. Last part. He says in America, the rules of politics applies to everyone except Black people. This is why we don't listen to the boule when it comes down to political strategy. The primary reason for Black Americans being an exception stems from structural racism and various community pressures and attitudes that set them apart as a political subculture. Y'all better listen. Political subcultures are typically minimally integrated out of fear of losing their lowly status. This is what he be trying to tell us about these other groups, including the illegal, the immigration stuff. They do not resist being treated as subjects. Lacking population numbers, wealth, and leadership, they reject dissent and passively follow the majority society, even though they gain only very small benefits. I'm going to skip down and I'm getting ready to end. The next paragraph, he says, the worst part of this picture is that Black America has not demanded a quid pro quo relationship. He says, explaining how Cuban refugees in Miami were able to economically and politically surpass and subordinate Blacks in Miami within 1 decade. A Cuban told me, are y'all listening? Quote, we are not like Black people who always march, demonstrate, then beg. We demand what we want, end quote. Blacks have petitioned for freedom and equality, but never demanded quid pro quo compensation for their political loyalty, labor, patriotism, or cultural contributions. Powernomics urges Black voters to begin to move towards the politics of patronage for the entire race and not just for a few visible Blacks. One last part. He says, both white and Black candidates for public office, various political parties, and this nation all get a free ride with Black voters. Black voters are led to believe that there are two purposes to vote. He says, number one, to elect the white candidate who is best able to lead and control resources, or two, to elect, y'all listen, the Black candidate who is most deserving of a public job and personal recognition. In that deed, the most we get is personal satisfaction that the candidate we supported won. We play politics just to play. Others play for the benefits of winning or being in the winner's circle. I think that says quite a lot. Finally, we have yet to learn to play politics by the basic rules. Wait a minute. He says we demand nothing, and that is basic. That's basically exactly what we get. We have yet to learn to play politics by the basic rules. We should stay out of any political game. The bootlicks don't like when I say this, but I'm quoting Dr. Claude. He says we should stay out of any political game that promises that we will get nothing even when our candidate wins. Once we start playing to win, we must always reject candidates who fail to pay their debts to us. Let me hit the gavel on that. Talk Black to me, somebody. It is important, family, that we listen to somebody that knows how to win elections like our brother here. We need to listen to somebody that actually worked in a governmental administration, like the Jimmy Carter administration, worked in the Commerce Department. We need to listen to somebody that actually knows what's happening and move accordingly and move as a unit. So, as much of a bootlick as Stephen A. Smith is, he did tell the Democrats the truth. And we just want to let the Democrats know, as we've been saying from the jump, you're going to keep losing. And we're quite all right with that. And we don't feel bad because you are going to do what your most loyal voting bloc tells you to do, or we will simply not vote for you. How about them apples? My name is Vicki Dillard, beloved. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to share the broadcast. Be sure, family, to hit the thumbs up button. And don't forget that you can find me here live typically Tuesday through Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Yes, Tuesday through Thursday. You can see Vicki Dillard right here on the African Diaspora News channel. Be sure to check out Brother Phil's live tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it. And of course, support my other wonderful colleagues' platforms and their commentary as well. Yes, share the